shut down, claiming that to be segregated is a recipe for danger. It's a debate that sparked outrage from ethnic community leaders. James Thomas has this report.
They're isolated. Pockets and pockets of people are radicalised because they're not assimilating.
Well, you know very well what the risk is, don't you? Terrorism.
The police don't do anything, or we just have to.
Ethnic enclaves are singled out by some as hotbeds for resentment and breeding grounds for violence. They have been linked in part to the London bombings, the 2005 riots in Paris, and the Cronulla riots in Sydney.
We have been pushed far enough. Tonight is the start to push back.
From the outskirts of Brisbane, Pauline Hanson's solution was to massively curtail immigration. Now, another politician has targeted one group for special attention: Muslims.
In some areas, you have Muslim communities that haven't dispersed as much as other communities to Australia.
Kevin Andrews is the former immigration minister. He wants Muslim enclaves broken up. The Muslim community are in shock.
And how can he say that? I don't understand.
I think John Howard was a racist, and I think Kevin Andrews is probably the same.
Our politicians are supposed to be leaders. They're supposed to give us leadership here. If the politicians even imply certain things, it can make fear go through the community very quickly.
Do you think your comments are helpful?
The most common response I've had in the last 48 hours is, thank God somebody's had the courage to raise an issue that we're all concerned about.
I suspect God is receiving mixed messages about Kevin Andrews. I'm speaking to him from a Muslim prayer centre in Sydney. Here, the line to Allah is jammed with complaints.
I think Mr. Andrews hasn't had enough TV attention lately and needed to get in the media.
Abbas Ali built this Muslim prayer centre in Annangrove. Situated in the middle of Sydney's Christian heartland in the Hills Shire, it is an integration success story.
We had Christmas carols in this very hall. We had Christmas carols in this hall. During Christmas, we celebrated Advent in this very hall.
However, it wasn't easy for Abbas and the Muslim community to reach this point.
My offices where the glass was broken, we had issues where the garbage bins were firebombed, and then during the middle of the construction, the people had the heads of pigs put across the property and blood splattered across the walls of this building.
The centre met fierce resistance, largely driven by the then mayor of Borkham Hills Shire.
Yeah, well, did you say that? What's wrong with saying that?
Councillor John Griffiths remarked that should the prayer centre go ahead, he held fears for the ladies and women of the community.
His issue or claim to fame was that the women in Annangrove would not be safe. They would not be able to be safe to walk across the streets because Muslims would attack them literally. That's what he meant. Let's not beat around the bush. That's what he meant. And he tried to relate it or paint us all Muslims were the same. I mean, not every Australian is Robert Dolly Dunn. So not all Muslims are people who are going to attack women.
But it was too late. The fear was out there. Locals resisted the prayer centre at every turn.
We think if they really want another mosque, they should build another one in Auburn.
That was the attitude of Pirate Pete's Fish and Chip Shop 5 years ago. Today, Peter concedes that they were motivated by ignorance and fear.
Yeah, we got it wrong. Anybody's got to admit when they're wrong. I mean, if you're true to yourself.
In every generation in Australian society, there have been people who have said, oh my God, the new arrivals aren't integrating. Isn't it dreadful? You know, there are ethnic ghettos. It happened to the Irish, happened to the Chinese, happened to the Jews, happened to the Greeks, happened to the Italians, right? It's a long tradition amongst a minority of redneck Australians to feel that any new group arriving that clusters together initially is a problem.
Professor of Sociology Andrew Jakubowicz fears Kevin Andrews' criticism of Muslim enclaves has the potential to feed a new wave of racist tension, which, as we have seen in Cronulla, can quickly turn violent.
I don't think that Andrews is intentionally being racist, but I think that for the dog whistle people in Australia who are racist, they read what he says as reinforcing racist attitudes.
5 5 years on from the riots, Cronulla locals are battle-scarred. They don't want a repeat of the violence which greatly damaged their reputation. And some see Mr Andrews' comments as divisive.
As a politician, he's gone to university and studied. You think he'd be able to have a bit more common sense than what he's actually got, for sure. To me, all that's created is another issue.
In a democracy, it must be the case that we can have a discussion about these issues. It should be a civil discussion, but nonetheless, we should be able to have a discussion.
Mr Andrews explains why he believes Muslims aren't dispersing.
And the reason for that, I believe, is partly because of education and employment opportunities, but also it seems to be the case that Muslim communities marry out less than other communities that have come to Australia.
We're just like everybody else. We work, we pay our taxes as well, just like everybody else, so why should we be discriminated? That's what I reckon.
So your message to Kevin Andrews?
Shut up.
As if it wasn't enough to pick a fight with the Muslim community, Kevin Andrews has now reignited the debate between Sydney and Melbourne.
He's said that ethnic enclaves are more predominant in Sydney than in Melbourne.
If you look at Sydney in New South Wales, there seems to be more of people staying together in one place than, say, in Melbourne.
I don't think Kevin Andrews' view of Australia is accurate.
Professor Jakubowicz agrees that ethnic groupings are stronger in Sydney, but he says that it has little to do with policy or attitudes and everything to do with geography.
The big difference is that Melbourne is flat and it's easy to get around. Sydney, on the other hand, has a geography that locks people in and a public transport system which is dire.
Those people who are living in areas, or as Kevin Andrews says, enclaves, they want to have a nice house, they want nice education for their children, they want a nice life. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time for them to get there.
One place they might like to end up is here, in the wealthy and mostly Anglo-Saxon enclave of Mossman.
I do think, though, we should encourage them to come into the community more. We should all assimilate.
Would you welcome then a lot more ethnicity, say, in this suburb? People in hijabs, you know, a mosque around the corner?
Ah, well, that's a different story.
Oh, is it?
Don't record
Suddenly it all changes.
I mean, I think the people in Mosman wouldn't fancy them coming here. I mean, it's quite an upmarket place, so...
And you think that bringing Muslims in would make it down market?
You know very well it would, mate.
It's a two-way street. If you want Muslims to integrate and be able to move across Australia, then there has to be also some support in terms of welcoming there.
Abbas Ali remains optimistic. His prayer centre has been accepted in the Hills Shire and, unlike Kevin Andrews, he believes that Muslims are integrating well.
If you want to look at real integration, just going back one step, Emirates Airlines, Middle Eastern government-owned airlines, sponsoring our biggest race day here. I think it shows you that the Muslim community here, if they were offended, would have stopped it. But they haven't raised any issues whatsoever. It's a great thing for Australia. We're raising a lot of money for the Australian economy. Great, let it be. If we can keep people like Mr. Andrews and other politicians out of the way, generally things will be pretty much okay.
That's James Thomas reporting, and why don't you let us know what you think? You can drop us a line via our website, yahoo7.com.au/todaytonight. Coming up soon, putting snags to the test. It's an Aussie tradition, a summer barbie with a few sausages. But are they really healthy? Well, you're going to be surprised by the results. They're still to come.